It was well past midnight, and after tossing and turning in bed for what felt like hours, I finally decided to get up and grab a glass of water. The living room lights were still on, a reminder of the unusual evening. My brother Casey had sent Paul over to stay with me for a while. Hearing about Paul's situation was heartbreaking. His wife had betrayed him, and his life was in tatters. Paul had been married to her for many years and didn't see this coming. On top of that, Casey's young son was also having a tough time and needed some peace. "Can you please take him in?" Casey had pleaded with me. Though I didn't know Paul well, I understood that the pain he felt was due to a woman's unfaithfulness. Our family had already faced so much loss. I lost my husband Jacob 7 years ago when he died suddenly from a heart attack. One moment, we were excitedly building our dream home, and the next, everything came to a standstill. Jacob's passing turned my world upside down. For years, I struggled with the emptiness that filled my life. Recently, that loneliness felt even heavier, making nights like this particularly difficult. So here's the deal. This is not just any story. It's about blurred lines, overwhelming feelings, and the hidden truth waiting to be revealed. Each moment might resonate with you, stirring emotions you didn't know you had, and pushing you beyond your comfort zone. If this sounds like a story you want to hear, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support means a lot to me. I made my way to the living room, where I found Paul sitting on the couch, watching a romantic movie. My main concern was helping him find some peace during his stay, but little did I know, things were about to take a turn. Paul looked at me and asked, "Did I wake you?" His voice had a mix of uncertainty and a deep yearning for comfort. I stood there in my nightgown, but that didn't matter. I felt incredibly lonely at that moment. "No," I replied with a gentle smile. "I just came to get some water." In truth, I didn't want the night to end. Perhaps spending some time with Paul would lessen the emptiness I felt. Maybe watching a movie together could bring back a sense of normalcy and make peace seem possible again. "Come sit with me," Paul invited, gesturing to the empty spot beside him on the couch. It was an easy choice to make. I wanted to enjoy the night, feeling a bit of warmth and connection, so I decided to sit next to Paul as the movie started. However, I couldn't focus on the film. There was something unsettling within me. Paul, a stranger to me, sat close by, and I noticed the slight nervousness in his voice. Everything felt different. As the romantic scenes unfolded, I glanced away from the screen, suddenly reminded of past feelings that I thought I had buried deep down. In a moment of distraction, I accidentally brushed against Paul's arm. Instantly, I pulled back and muttered an apology, my eyes darting away in embarrassment. Paul paused for a second before reassuring me with a small nod, saying it was okay and not to worry. But that brief touch changed everything. The space between us felt suddenly smaller. Despite the movie continuing, both Paul and I were lost in our own thoughts. The closeness didn't bring comfort. Instead, it highlighted the loneliness we both carried inside. I would remember that night as the beginning of something I hadn't expected, something more complex than I could have anticipated. It felt like a turning point as I realized I was becoming more aware of Paul and drawn to him. Sitting on the couch in my nightgown next to him, after being alone for so long, created a tension I couldn't ignore. Maybe it was the years of solitude, but being so close to a man, again, awakened something in me that was confusing. That night, I started to understand that I was developing feelings for Paul. I remained tense until the movie came to an end, and when it did, I quickly made my way to my room. Once there, I sat on my bed, needing to process what I felt, even though I wasn't sure what those feelings meant. I tossed and turned all night, unable to sleep because of the emotions swirling inside me. Morning came, but my restless night followed me into the day. I decided to sit at the piano, hoping to find some comfort and calm among my unease. After nearly 7 years of solitude, the piano was like an old friend, offering a sense of peace and reminding me of Jacob. As my fingers moved over the piano keys, I hoped this morning might lift my spirits a bit. Suddenly, I heard a noise outside and saw a shadow by the window. It was Paul, taking an early stroll around the neighborhood. At first, I didn't realize he was there, but as I played, he stepped through the front door. I was so caught up in my music that I didn't notice him watching me until I glanced up and saw him standing silently, a friendly smile on his face. My fingers stalled for a moment, and I felt that familiar tension building up inside me again. But Paul simply smiled, as if everything was completely normal. "That was beautiful," he said. "Thank you. Honestly, this is the best birthday gift I've ever received." His words sent a wave of excitement through me. When he walked in, it felt like the atmosphere of the room transformed, and then he said something so sincere that I'd never heard from him before. "It's true. Just watching you for a few minutes made my day. Also, I turned 40 today." I quickly realized how much those words affected me. I looked away, trying to manage the whirlwind of feelings while appreciating his kind compliment. At that moment, for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. I could sense that something was beginning to shift between us. After the thrill of his visit, I found myself eager for the evening ahead. Learning that it was Paul's 40th birthday inspired me to do something meaningful to make the day special. An idea sprang to mind, and I turned to him. "It's your birthday today," I said. "Let's celebrate. How about some wine and a cake tonight?" His surprised smile lit up his face. "If you're suggesting that, I guess tonight could actually be fun," he replied, his eyes twinkling mischievously. Then, after a moment, he added with a teasing grin, "But there's a catch. You have to play the piano for me. Again, no backing out." I laughed, trying to ease my growing nerves. "Okay, but only if we open a nice bottle of wine and make a real toast," I responded. Even this simple exchange left a stronger impact on me than I cared to admit. I felt emotions bubbling up inside, but pushed them away, reminding myself that we were just trying to enjoy a normal birthday celebration. That was all it was, a small celebration. Yet, Paul casually said something that threw me for a loop, leaving me momentarily speechless. He looked at me with that same innocent expression and asked, "How old are you?" I replied, 45, and for a moment I was taken aback. I had always tried to see myself as younger than my actual age, but the sincerity in his compliment surprised me. A smile broke across my face, though I quickly brushed it off. Deep inside, though, I felt a little spark of excitement from his words. I was caught in a tug of war between the warmth he was showing me and the whirlwind of emotions I was struggling to hold back. As the evening approached, Paul and I opened a bottle of wine and got comfortable, ready to celebrate. Our conversation drew us closer together. His warmth and the attention he gave me made me feel relaxed, and I could sense there was something special brewing between us, a connection that seemed to grow stronger with each moment. While a voice inside urged me to treat the night like any other, Paul raised his glass, flashed that charming smile, and playfully said, "So when are you going to play something for me? You know you can't escape it." I hesitated for a second, then took a breath and decided to go for it. I moved to the piano, letting the music pour out, hoping it would settle the storm of feelings within me. But with every note I played, I felt a shift, as if the music was pulling me closer to him. Even in my concentration, there was comfort in the way Paul listened, appreciating each note as if it were the most beautiful thing ever. What I thought would be a simple celebration transformed into something much deeper. In that moment, it felt like a taste of something real, something I hadn't experienced in a long time. As my fingers danced over the keys, my vision started to blur, and each note stirred emotions I couldn't quite understand. Paul's voice echoed in my mind, and I felt my heart and head drifting apart. I was so absorbed in the music that I lost track of time. My hands instinctively searched for another melody until, suddenly, Paul was beside me. He gently placed his hands over mine and said, "You're an amazing woman. You play the piano so beautifully." His words resonated in my mind, leaving behind a curious emptiness. His warm hands rested on mine, grounding me even as my feelings swirled. "Come on, you're tired," he said softly, his tone calm and reassuring. "Let's sit on the couch for a bit. I have a surprise for you." With his gentle guidance, Paul led me to the couch. I was still trying to grasp what was happening, but something about this moment felt incredibly significant. When I sat down, my thoughts were still racing, but then Paul returned to the piano. I watched as his fingers moved gracefully over the keys, and suddenly he began to play my favorite melody. As soon as I heard it, I recognized the song right away. It was the one I had cherished for years, the melody that always stirred something deep within me. As he played, my heart raced. Every note brought back memories that I wasn't quite ready to confront. I simply sat there, letting the music fill the room and spark something inside me. Eventually, I couldn't stay seated anymore. The melody he played seemed to beckon me, pulling me closer, almost as if it were calling my name. Slowly, I walked toward him, trying to calm the whirlwind of emotions in my chest. Once I was right beside him, I felt uncertain about what to do. "You're really good at this," I managed to say, my voice shaking as I fought to conceal the rapid beating of my heart. "And you're playing my favorite song." My words hung in the air, echoing softly around us, while my emotions tangled within me. "Who are you, Paul?" I whispered, barely able to keep my voice steady. "You're really affecting me." I had never felt anything like this before. I was overwhelmed with confusion, excitement, fear, and happiness all at once. When our eyes met, we were so close that I could feel his breath, and looking into his eyes was like falling into another world. In that moment, time seemed to freeze. The way he gazed at me made my heart race, warming me from the inside out. It felt like we were the only two people in existence, and everything had clicked into place in a brand new way. The outside world faded, and suddenly nothing else mattered. All my confusion and fears melted away, leaving just Paul and me. His hands rested lightly on my waist, firm enough to give me stability, but gentle enough to keep me at ease. My head was spinning, and I couldn't tell if it was from the wine or the rush of emotions swirling within me. Without Paul's steady presence, I wasn't sure I would have been able to keep my balance. The look in his eyes drew me in even closer, and in that moment, his warmth and the sense of safety I felt beside him anchored me amid the chaos. "You need to rest," he said softly, guiding me toward the couch. His calming words wrapped around me, and the feel of his hands on my waist was both comforting and a little unsettling. When I finally sat down, his hands lingered for a moment longer, and our eyes met again. I was at a loss for words, unsure of how to express myself. His touch radiated warmth, making that night unforgettable, powerful in a way I couldn't fully describe. That evening on the couch became one of the most exciting and unforgettable nights of my life. Everything unfolded so fast that I barely had time to understand it all before morning arrived. When I opened my eyes, I got out of bed and headed to the living room. The rich aroma of coffee brewed in the kitchen pulled me from my sleepy state. There was Paul, standing shirtless as he made the coffee, his fit body still glowing with warmth from the night before. Just thinking about the events of last night sent a thrilling yet uneasy feeling through me. My nightgown and underwear were still strewn on the floor, and just remembering everything made me feel a mix of nerves and excitement. Replaying our time together in my mind only added to the confusion. What would happen next? How could I possibly begin to unravel all of this? One thing was certain. There was a connection between us that I had never experienced before. This moment felt like the beginning of something that could completely change my life. Paul turned around and caught my eye, his gaze gentle and his smile inviting. The air around us was thick with unspoken feelings as I stood there, trying to understand everything I was feeling. I felt so lost at that moment, completely absorbed in my thoughts, but I could sense something was shifting, something that I couldn't ignore. Standing there as Jessica, I found myself overwhelmed with both excitement and confusion since last night. Everything had happened so quickly. My clothes lay untouched on the floor, and as my eyes drifted to them, I closed my eyes for a brief moment and shook my head. It all felt so complicated, and I couldn't decipher my thoughts or emotions. I quickly made my way to the bathroom. I needed a shower to clear my mind and escape the whirlwind of feelings that had taken over. I didn't even think about the mess. I just wanted to be under the hot stream of water for a little while, to find a moment of peace. After some time in the shower, I stepped out and wrapped myself in a towel. Suddenly, the door swung open and there was Paul. I froze, the shock of the moment holding us both still. Our eyes locked in a gaze so intense that it felt like time stood still. I was unsure of what to do. The mix of confusion and emotion in my eyes must have been clear. I felt raw and vulnerable, yet words began to spill out of me uncontrollably. I was filled with confusion as I whispered, my voice shaking slightly. I really don't understand what's happening. I knew deep down that what we were doing was wrong, yet it felt almost like a dream. Paul stepped closer, his expression a mix of different feelings, and neither of us could predict what would happen next. I felt a strong urge to speak, but the words just wouldn't come out. "Your coffee is ready," Paul said, his voice a bit unstable. As I turned to look at him, I realized how chaotic yet oddly beautiful the situation was. I wasn't thinking about what the future held. Instead, I was living completely in that moment. As I sat down with my coffee, my heart was still filled with confusion. Paul and I locked eyes, both of us remembering what had just happened. It all unfolded so quickly that I was struggling to process it. What had we done? What emotions were we experiencing? I wished I could find the right words to explain everything, but it felt like an impossible task. "Jessica," Paul began, his voice sounding strained. "What we did was definitely wrong." I realized we had let ourselves get into a really tough situation. Paul's eyes showed that he felt guilty, but there was also a sense that he understood what happened. He knew, just like I did, that things had gotten out of hand. We both felt that we should regret what happened. We never should have let it go this far. There was a moment of silence as my mind raced with conflicted thoughts. Eventually, I spoke up. "Yeah, everything just happened so quickly, but it wasn't right. We let things get way too complicated, and now, looking back, none of it makes sense. This was a mistake for both of us." It felt heavy on my chest, but there was also a strange relief in realizing that we both had gone too far. Paul was quiet for a moment, staring at the ground. Then he looked at me and said, "Let's just pretend this never happened, Jessica." His voice was calm but gentle. "I think we need to move on for our own well-being. Holding on to this will only make things worse, especially since everything is such a mess already. We need some space from each other." When he said that, I felt something inside me click into place. He was right. Continuing this would only hurt us both. "Yeah," I replied, taking a deep breath. "Maybe this is the best move. If you leave, maybe that's what we need. It's probably the healthiest choice for both of us." Paul nodded firmly. "I need to do this. It's the right thing for us." We sat in silence for a few moments, simply looking at each other. In that instant, we both understood how crucial this decision was. We were facing the truth that those dark moments we shared were just mistakes. Accepting that might be the first step toward healing. Instead of dragging each other down in confusion, giving ourselves space felt like the only way forward. I hope you enjoyed my story. It has been an exciting journey, and sharing it with you has truly made me happy. If you want to hear more stories like this, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know when a new episode is available. Your likes and comments mean so much to me. Hearing your thoughts keeps me motivated. Your support helps me create even more content. Thank you all, and I can't wait to see you in the next story.